Welcome to this episode of the Real Producers Partners Podcast. I'm David Owen of Changescape Web, and I'm your host today. In each episode, we speak to different partners in the Real Producers Network and learn more about their business. And today I'm joined by Alison Carnie. Alison started her bookkeeping firm a little over 3 years ago. I've had the opportunity to chat with Alison a little bit and learn a little bit about bookkeeping, and hopefully she's going to educate us much more on the value of bookkeeping and how it could help you as you're in the marketplace. So welcome, Alison.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
You bet. So first, before we start, what is the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you if they want to talk more about your services?
Absolutely. You can find Domino Bookkeeping on the various social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all at Domino Bookkeeping. You can also email us at hello@dominobookkeeping.com.
Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in this. From what I've read in our conversations, it sounds like you've had kind of a winding road to get to this point.
Absolutely. I am a big believer in learning something new every day. And I think my background kind of plays into that. I started with a degree in psychology. I actually worked in the field. Then when I realized psychology was not my end all be all, I got my MBA. While I was doing that, I was working in insurance, deciding what I wanted to do. Accounting was what I decided on. Got my master's in accounting, and I started my work in external audit. It was awful. I hated it. So I switched to internal audit, did about 5 years of internal audit, loved it, loved the travel, loved all the things that went along with it. But when it was time to kind of settle down a little bit, I switched to corporate accounting, and that was also great. But I left after about 2 years to be a stay-at-home mom. After I had my second child, I decided I needed something more, but I didn't want to go back to a W-2 position. So I became a bookkeeper with my own firm.
So that's quite a resume.
Yes.
So how do you get in touch with businesses, and how do they find you other than the obvious social media on the web? And why would they want to get in touch with you?
A lot of people will find me through my QuickBooks Pro Advisor profile. Basically, they use QuickBooks in their business, and so they will type in their zip code, and my name will pop up if I'm nearby. And really, people who are looking for a bookkeeper know the how important it is to kind of have that. You know, business owners start their business to do what they enjoy. And then they quickly realize that they're wearing a lot of hats that don't fit. So bookkeeping is one of them. So you got to talk to someone who knows what they're doing.
Can we start a little bit about what we mean by bookkeeping? Because my perception would be somebody that just keeps track of numbers.
Well, you're not 100% wrong there. There's just a lot more to it. And I think that's what kind of gets lost a little bit. Bookkeeping is within the realm of accounting. So if you think of accounting as the function, bookkeeping is kind of the first level of accounting. A lot of what bookkeepers are doing is reviewing all of the transactions, every penny coming in, every penny going out of the business, and making sure that those get in the correct buckets. Let's, for example, take a mortgage payment that you are paying, whether on your own home or on a property that you rent out to someone. that can't just go to, oh, well, my mortgage loan account, because there's other things built into that transaction. We need to split out interest. We need to split out any escrow payments. So it's really nailing down how each transaction needs to be categorized to appropriately read your financials in a healthy way.
So it's making sure you got the money in the right buckets so you can keep track of it.
Yeah, because if you sometimes put your QuickBooks subscription to software or sometimes put it to accounting fees, you're not going to be able to get a very good budget for the next year because you don't have consistency. Additionally, if you, let's say you're taking some money to pay yourself as the business owner, if you put that on your income statement as a payroll expense, that's incorrect as well. It should be on your balance sheet as an owner distribution. So just kind of putting things in the wrong bucket can very quickly snowball into a series of issues between budgeting or tax implications down the line.
Well, sounds to me like your background in audit and the work you did in accounting contributes well to your function as bookkeeper.
Yes, and it has allowed me as a firm owner to go above just the basic book. I kind of say that bookkeeping is the compliance. It's the bare minimum. So referring back to what I said earlier, the bookkeeping being that first level, accounting then kind of gets into deep diving into your financial statements, maybe adjusting entries. We get tax returns from the tax preparer. We want to make sure that our balance sheet matches what was sent to the IRS. So we do a little more advising type stuff as well. But that's more of like, people ask, what's the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant? The bookkeeper is more baseline. The accounting comes above that.
So are there rules that you have to follow? Are there guidelines? I mean, how do you know where to put the buckets or what to put in the buckets?
Well, that's a great question, because most people would probably think that accounting is very black and white, and that is not the case. You know, we are beholden, of course, to tax laws and all of that. However, as the bookkeeper, it is my duty to make sure that I am providing you financial statements in a way that you, the business owner, understands them. So if you want to see your finances go in a, like, let's take payroll, for example. You have your payroll as the business owner. Maybe you want to put that as an expense, but all of your other payroll employees who are doing more work, getting your service or your product out the door, maybe you want to record those as a cost of goods sold. There's no right or wrong there. It's how you as the business owner want to see that information and track it. And I really work with my clients to customize their charts of accounts so that we are in agreement on how that looks. So they can pick how it wants to go. We just want things to be consistent.
Right.
And of course, there are rules, like we can't put owner distributions on an income statement. There are rules in that regard, like you can't do this or that, but there's a lot more gray area than many would think.
Well, it sounds like it. So what size of clients do you like to work with?
I like to work with little more established clients. However, I love to hop on calls with people who are just starting. And I'm actually working on putting together kind of a mini course on getting started when you're not ready to outsource your bookkeeping yet. Maybe you only have one client, or you're just getting into real estate investing. You only have the one property, so it doesn't make sense financially to outsource the bookkeeping, but you want to start off on the right foot. So I like to talk to those people who are newer, and I am actively working to put together kind of a little course to like help them get started off on the right foot.
Yeah. Okay, sure. That makes sense, because a lot of times, like you said, when they get started, they know what they know. but they need to know what they don't know as well.
Exactly.
So, I mean, how did you choose bookkeeping as opposed to any other segment of where you've been working? Why didn't you just go do audit for small companies? Something like that.
That's a great question. You know, I wanted to see where I could make the most impact and help the most. And as I wanted to start a small business, it became very clear that small business owners are in desperate need of assistance with just the basics. Bookkeeping is just a very basic need of any small business. And what I've learned over time is that I can't remember what the percentage is, but majority of small businesses fail by their 5th birthday. And like you said, you don't know what you don't know. So really bringing in those people who are experts in their field as soon as you can afford to do so are really going to help your business not be that statistic.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there any industry you like to work with over
Real
another?
Real estate's my jam. Real estate accounting is my favorite place to work. There's just a lot of nuances with real estate accounting. If you're a real estate investor, whether you're flipping a property or if you're buying and holding a property, those are handled differently on your balance sheet and on your income statement. So I like dealing with those kind of nuances in real estate accounting.
Okay. All right. So, is there any, what are the challenges that you have encountered when you're dealing with a real estate organization that has both their buying and holding and then others that are just buying and flipping? How do you differentiate one or the other?
For the accounting piece,
Yeah.
what does that look like? So if you are flipping a property, let me back up for a second. So your balance sheet is kind of a running tally of everything going on in your business, all of your assets. So any properties that you own, any liabilities, so any loans that you have. And then you also have your equity in the company. So your owner distributions, your owner contributions, those all roll over every year. Everything stays current. Your income statement is just for your fiscal tax year. That's where we look at everything you made in that 12-month period and everything you spent in that 12-month period. If you are flipping a house, if you buy it in 2024 and sell it in 2024, everything is recorded on that income statement and it is handled that way. If you are buying and holding, you put those assets over on the balance sheet and then we depreciate, et cetera, over the years.
Okay.
If you are flipping a property and it's December 31st and you are not selling it yet, you would move it to your balance sheet to get it off of your books for year end, and then we would move it back on January 1st. So we are starting fresh.
Okay.
So there's the flips have a little bit extra going on, but really it's just to kind of make sure that we're recognizing the income and expenses in the correct manner in the correct period.
Okay. So how much education do you have to keep going? Because the tax laws, I'm sure they're going to change now that we have just ended the election cycle, and I'm sure things are going to change a lot. Would you agree?
I try to keep an open mind. I'm sure change is coming. But that's kind of, me personally in my business, I want to help people who are dealing with real estate. I want to help them as much as possible. So I try and stay up to date on real estate tax laws and changes so that we can utilize what they have going on with their financials in the best way possible. But I do not file tax returns. I believe it is very important to have two sets of professional eyes on such an important piece of your business. I mean, without your finances, like that's your backbone of your business. That's kind of everything. So I'm a firm believer in you want to have your tax preparer and your bookkeeper separate individuals. Tax preparers want to look at the books in a way that is going to help them file a return. I'm going to help you look at them that way. So I try and stay up to date on real estate tax laws because there's just too many tax laws across the board for me, a non-tax person, to stay on top of. But really, it's working with the tax preparer throughout the year. Like, what are there any changes that are happening? You know, all of that. It's all a team effort.
So we talked about real estate investors. What about agents? What do they have to keep track of?
For agents, they really want to keep track of they are considered more of a 1099 contractor. So you have your brokerage if you're an agent, you generally work under a brokerage. And then when you sell a home, the commission comes into the brokerage, a percentage stays with the brokerage, and the agent gets their percentage of it, minus any expenses that the brokerage might have. So for tracking 1099 purposes and income, you want to make sure that we're tracking the gross income and not just the net that comes into your bank account. We want to see the whole picture.
Okay.
So really tracking that and tracking all of your business related expenses, because as a 1099 contractor, you're not, unless you have yourself set up as an LLC and that LLC is the 1099 contractor, you have to really be tracking all of those numbers so that when that brokerage sends you a 1099 in January, we're making sure that the numbers match.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, excuse me, you have to make sure that you're, once again, that the numbers are going in the right bucket. And I'm sure every agent or every investor has their own idea of how that ought to flow. So, so you're not, as I think through this, you would not be separate from an accountant. You just be another person on the team.
Correct. So accountant, the title accountant is, again, more of a gray area. Some people hear accountant and they think of the person filing taxes. Some people hear accountant and they think of a controller or a CFO who's doing more advisory, or you think of an accountant doing, journal entries and transacting the bank feed. So accountant is a gray area. I call myself an accountant, but I'm also a bookkeeper. But I am not a tax professional. So
okay.
It's kind of like with a doctor. You're not going to, like, oh, I need a doctor. I broke my toe. You're not going to go see a heart surgeon.
Right. So it's flavors of accounting, basically. Bookkeeping is a flavor of accounting. A tax professional is a flavor of accounting.
Yes.
Would that be accurate?
Yes, exactly. So when people who don't know me hear, oh, you're an accountant, can I ask you a question? I'm like, oh, sure. And they'll ask me about something to do with taxes. And I'm like, oh, actually, you would be better suited to speak to someone else.
Yeah, good question, but you need to talk to someone else.
Yes, we stay in our lanes.
Yeah, you're right. So an accountant's not a competitor. They're just another resource for a small business to utilize as they handle their finances.
Exactly. So your business owner, you want your bookkeeper. The bookkeeper can be a bookkeeper accountant who's going to handle all of the bookkeeping, organizing of the money in and out, as well as advise on the financial statements. And then you also have your tax preparer who can be an accountant who can also advise on that. So there is some overlap. But again, having both people involved is vital, in my opinion.
Do you think there's a misconception in the marketplace as to your role versus a CPA's role?
Oh, absolutely. And it's drilled into everyone. They hear CPA, we need a CPA, we need a CPA. A CPA is a certified public accountant. So when I was kind of running through that crazy resume of mine, I said I started in external audit. That is where a true CPA is going to work. But I still, despite owning my own firm, I will get recruiters reaching out to me and they're like, hey, we have all these open W-2 positions, and I'll scroll through and I'll look at them. And a lot of the requirements are they require a CPA, they require you to work for a Big Four, and those things just are not required. A lot of tax professionals will have a CPA. A lot of accountants will have a CPA, but it is not something that is required of them. So there's a lot of common misconceptions in that realm. And that also bookkeeping in general is something that is easy, cheap. You can do it yourself, all of those things, because they just think, oh, it's just dropping money in buckets. We got this. It's fine. Yeah.
So what would you say, one of the real producers, if you're talking to a real producer's member, why should they contact you?
Well, I really think that I can help the agents that are part of Real Producers, making sure that all of their finances are in order. If your books are wrong, you're not going to be able to utilize them to make business decisions. If you want to set goals for, how many homes you want to sell, or any type of business goal, whether it's related to financials or not, financials are going to play a part. You can use bad data and then make a wrong business decision, and you might end up paying a lot of money for that.
Okay.
So it's really just kind of, we're keeping everyone in check.
Okay, that makes sense. So, really, the sooner they contact you, the better.
Yes, because I will say that if they are not, again, if they are very new or green to the business and they're not ready, I can at least guide them on certain things to think about as they're starting their business, and just getting them set up right from the beginning so that there's less of a cleanup later on.
Right. Yeah, there's less redo. Do it right the first time, so you don't have to redo it later.
Exactly, yes.
So do you do any work with associated kind of businesses, whether it's remodelers or roofers or painters?
Oh, absolutely. I end up with quite a few trades as a byproduct of being in the real estate accounting space. I have, construction companies that are in my client roster. I find that a lot of people in real estate also do something else. So we might have an agent who likes to flip homes because they are part of the construction world as well.
Right.
So when someone comes to me, they'll generally come to me. A lot of my clients will have one or two businesses or more that I help them take care of. And getting your chart of accounts set up in the right way, it's going to look different whether it's a construction company or being a real estate agent.
Okay. So since we're talking to the real producers audience, do you want to showcase the article that you're in this month?
Sure. Yeah, that was exciting. I wrote an article about 1099s.
Well, a lot of people go, but that's important. I mean, it's important to understand the implications of that and what it means for you as a business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked about 1099s briefly, throughout our conversation, but the IRS changed, maybe sometime between 2020 and 2022. I can't remember exactly, but they introduced a whole new form, the 1099 NEC, which stands for non-employee compensation, and the 1099 MISC, which is miscellaneous.
Right.
But so the most common one that anyone listening would receive is your 1099 NEC. And one of the reasons as an agent, the brokerage should be tracking those numbers for your commissions because they have to submit 1099s. But those 1099s get submitted to the IRS. And if you're not checking it on your end to make sure, yes, I'm in agreement with this is correct, the brokerage could potentially, not that they would do this on purpose, but if their accounting isn't in great shape, they could report to the IRS that your commissions are way higher than they actually were, which would be an over-reporting of income, which would cause you to pay more in taxes on money you didn't actually make. Yeah. So it's the checks and balances, trust but verify. You want to make sure that you're tracking all of your stuff so that it matches up. I was doing 1099s in January of this year, and there's also certain people who aren't required to receive them. And if you file your business as an S Corp, then you no longer have to receive 1099. So I would be filing on behalf of my clients. And then in February comes along and someone who was an S Corp, but they were expecting a 1099 comes looking for it because they haven't been tracking their income at all year. And they rely on a 1099. And I'm like, well, you don't even need a 1099 because you're an S Corp and your accounting should tell you how much you're making.
Okay. Well, it sounds complex to me as someone who's not been in this realm. It's good that you have this info because you can be a good advisor.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a conversation.
You have to, as with any vendor you look to bring into your business, whether it's someone you're going to refer your clients to, you're selling a home and you want to have a water restoration person on deck, you want to vet your vendors, whether they're working for you in your business or working alongside you with your clients, because you are going to find people who are very well educated, like myself, have a vast background in accounting, but then you're going to also have someone who was sitting on the couch one day and just say they saw an ad on Facebook that they can make six figures as a bookkeeper, so they decided to give it a go.
I've seen those.
Yeah, I'm not making that up. I get those targeted ads, and I'm like, why would you target this ad at me?
Right.
But so you have to vet all your vendors.
Right. So again, tell us again, excuse me, the best way to get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can find us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, all Domino Bookkeeping. A little piece of trivia that I will throw in there is bookkeeping is, I think, one of the only English words with 3 consecutive double letters.
Yeah.
Most people will spell bookkeeping wrong. It's BOOKKEEPING.
That's amazing. I noticed that, but that's amazing.
People tend to leave out the second K. Is what I find. So anyway, so you can find us at hello@dominobookkeeping.com. We have a website, dominobookkeeping.com, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Domino Bookkeeping.
Yeah, that's great. I was thinking about those be a bookkeeper in 3 hours kind of ads that you see on Facebook. And I'm like, that can't be. It's more than just taking a number and writing it down.
Yeah, and you can, I'm not saying that you cannot change careers. I had all of this background, and I still, before launching my own firm, I took a course specific for small businesses because when I was in corporate accounting, I was working for a very well-known company, but I was only in charge of a little piece of the puzzle. Right. So when you suddenly have the whole purview of the entire business, it changes the game. So there are ways to change your career later on, and you can absolutely run a successful bookkeeping business, but it's not as quick and simple, easy money that adds all that you believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I appreciate your time and you taking the time to explain this. It helps me understand it a little better. And, I hope that our listeners will take the time to reach out to you and talk about what's important to them and then get your opinion and your evaluation of what they've been doing.
Yes, absolutely. Especially as 1099 season is coming, I believe if anyone wants help, even if I'm not doing your books for you, if you need help with 1099s, that is a service that I offer. And I'm actually offering $50 off 1099 services for January 2025.
Good.
So
Wow.
I know it's not the most exciting thing to talk about, but I started off by saying I am a believer in learning something new every day. So if I can help someone learn something new, I am happy to do so. And I appreciate you having me.
It could keep you out of trouble. So thanks for your time. We've been talking for about half an hour. We'll stop right now and talk again.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.